let's bring in Jeff Paterson. We got a lot more to talk about when it comes to this game. Jeff, I said the first thing I would ask you is the Kiefer Sherwood free agent question. We'll get to that in a second. That's my second question. My first question, am I totally off base with this idea that pulling the goalie down 3-0 feels the same as bunting to break up a no-hitter in the 9th inning?
Just a preposterous take. Just like ridiculous. You've said some dumb stuff on this show, and this is going like right up there. Like, you think Jared Bednar is sitting there and thinking, look at Thatcher Demco. The hell that this guy's been through over the last 8 months. You know what he needs tonight? He needs a shutout. We have to do our part here now. That's not how it works. It's pro sports. And this is a team that was getting spanked, and they're trying to get their mojo going. As Harm said, they're below the playoff bar. Like, look at the teams above them in their division. Minnesota, Winnipeg, and Dallas. Like, who are they catching? And Harm and I sat and watched the game there last night, and you're in awe of the top of their lineup. But after that, it gets thin so quickly. And I don't know. I mean, they've overhauled their goaltending, and we'll see if that's enough. Can the top of that lineup carry them where they want to go? I don't know. But it is remarkable, the discrepancy from the top 3 or 4 there to the rest of that group. So every team's got its own motivations. They're playing hard. You play to the final whistle or the final buzzer. It was way more important for Demko to get a performance like that and to get a victory. And he said as much after the game. He's like, I didn't want to go 0-3. Shutout be damned. Like, that's the cherry on top. If it happens, it happens. But this is pro sports, and that is a ridiculous take.
Fair enough. And hey, like, Demko, at least the team in front of him finally showed up. And that's obviously going to be a story. That's something we'll ask you about. Before we get into the questions about last night's game, Kiefer Sherwood is the best free agent signing since blank.
Radim Verbata, how about that? 31 goals
in
his Canuck. Now, he played with the Twins, and he was brought in as a goal scorer. Context is different, obviously. Kiefer Sherwood's been incredible. To get to 11 goals 30 games into the season, leading the team in 5-on-5 goals along with Pius Suter. Harm and I were having that chat there last night in press row too. That is nuts. That 30 games in, and those are your 5-on-5 goal scoring leaders for the Vancouver Canucks. I think for me, the thing that's so impressive about Sherwood, and I pointed this out on Twitter last night, is he hasn't gone more than 5 games without a goal. Like, think about the struggles Nils Höglander's had. It's 25 now between goals. Danton Heinen, the slow return of Dakota Joshua. Jake DeBrusk, the first 9 games of the season, he didn't score. And this guy just hasn't had pockets of his season yet where you've wondered where he is. I mean, he's been there nightly in terms of the physical side of things, being the spark plug and energy. But he's got enough offensive chops. We knew that. There were some that suggested, hey, like, there might be more here to this guy. We've seen what he's done at other levels. And then you see that second goal. The awareness, the anticipation, and from a flat-footed start to pull away from Cale Makar and Nichushkin on the back check and then snap it home. Like, there was just so much to like in that 2-0 goal, which stands up as the game winner because the Avs did break the shutout. I don't know if you heard about that, Dave.
I did.
Yeah. And so, again, terrific night, terrific season. He's been a ton of fun to watch. Like, I was impressed by how humble he was post-game. You could tell what it meant to him to have the crowd or nearly full NHL arena chanting his name, things that he just hadn't experienced. So there probably will be some stretches here. Like, I don't think he's going to go every 5 games scoring a goal. There's bound to be a dry stretch. That happens, especially the depth guys that aren't expected and used to scoring at the rate and the level that he has. But he has just made the most of every opportunity. Seems like a really good dude, good teammate. There's no easier or better way to make inroads. We know what Quinn Hughes thought about him in the playoffs. Thatcher Demco with the quote there last night about, didn't really like this guy a whole lot, but have learned to like him now for what he's done, just getting to know him. He's come in and been everything that this organization could hope. So, yeah, it was fun to see and to see him get the rewards there. I think there is some belief and reasons for belief that he can keep it up. Maybe like a 30-goal score, that seems like a stretch. But again, the way that he plays, the fact that he doesn't take nights off, and when he gets his opportunity, like, there's enough zip in his shot there to make life difficult on goaltenders. Like, I think that 11 goals, 30 games in, like, absolutely take a run at 20 goals for the season now and think like 25. I don't know. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. We're all getting drunk on Kiefer Sherwood, but it's easy to do because he's a fun guy to watch and a fun guy to deal with, and you feel good for a guy that is having the kind of season that he's having so far.
Okay, I need to shout this out. Nick Pochek giving us a super chat. He said $10 for charity and to celebrate Quads getting absolutely destroyed by facts and logic from JPAT. So Jeff, your takedown of what I'm being told is a bad take.
All for a good cause.
All for a good cause. All for a great cause. Yes.
We thank Nick for that.
Health Foundation. Yes, thank you, Nick. Jeff, someone you highlighted on Rink-Wide Vancouver last night, Carson Susi. Leads all defensemen last night in Corsi at 5-on-5, and any night you're going above Quinn Hughes in any stat is a good night for you. But Carson Susi, you highlighted his game. You liked what you saw from Carson Susi last night.
Yeah, who is this Carson Susi? I don't recognize him from the first 20 games of the season. He was a talking point after just about every game for the first 6 weeks. He and Myers, and they had to be broken up. And sure enough, since they've been broken up, and I know they were back together, we had a little reunion. But he really has leveled up, and it's been good to see. He's a better player than he showed early in the season, but he's erased the mistakes. He looks confident now. He's assertive, aggressive, and the fact that he was out there for 6 of the 8 minutes that the Avs spent on the power play last night, and Colorado had 4 shots on goal in 8 minutes of power play time. It's not just Susi, and I know the coach pointed out Susi and Juleson together as a pairing. There's still some questions about those two guys as part of your top 4 moving forward, but to pass a test, and they matched up. Like, they saw a fair bit of McKinnon and Rantanen as the night went along. So it's been welcome, certainly since Hronek went down. Susi has stepped up. He scored the goal the other night. You're not looking for a ton of offense there. I just want him to play a simple, low-maintenance game the way he did for most of his first season as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, and he seems to be getting back to that. So it was a season high in ice time for him and just 7 seconds off his career high in the National Hockey League. That's how much they leaned on him last night, and I thought he responded. And I joked earlier today on Twitter that the hockey world was watching for the 2 best defensemen on the planet sharing the ice, and they got what they were looking for in Susi and Juleson last night.
I thought the Canucks had one hell of a statement response in the first period. Now, there were moments in the second and third where Colorado applied pressure, but I thought in the first period especially, the Avs had nothing defensively. The Canucks were just stifling them. They were practically spending most of the period in the Avs zone. What did you make of the bounce back and response given the context of that Saturday night beatdown? And big picture, what does that tell you about this group?
I guess I expected it. Saturday was terrible, and we've seen a few of those this year. But the Canucks have done a nice job under Rick Tocchet of not allowing those sorts of games to linger. So I was expecting them to be better. They couldn't be a whole lot worse than they were against the Bruins. But when JT grabs the puck and basically dummies Nate McKinnon and just drives to the front of the net 10 seconds into the hockey game, you're like, wow, all right, he's into it. And then the follow-up shift was Paterson's line controlling the play, winning battles, puck back to the point, and Juleson with sort of a slap pass, and Petey tips it just wide. And I thought, okay, that back-to-back stacked shifts right off the hop. They both look into it. Paterson's second shift, he rings one off the post. And I know people want him to dominate on the score sheet. And it was another night where he didn't have a point. And yet I thought he absolutely handled the middle stat line, that matchup that Miller took on the Tufts up top. And that line did its job. And then Paterson sort of exploited middle stat and his line. 4 shots, 8 attempts, the post that we talked about. That setup from Tyler Myers in the second period when Petey was all alone. There were some good looks for him. And so I thought if you have more nights like that, the points are going to follow. They have to. In terms of a response, when those guys are engaged and invested, and we know that Rick Tocchet I think we all think that Petey was one of the guys that was included in the 3, 4, or 5 players that had trouble getting fired up for the game the other night. I thought that was a nice response from him. And then, when we talk about the Avs depth, look how this game goes. Ultimately, it is Kiefer Sherwood further down the lineup, and that's where the Canucks were able to attack and exploit and have some success. So, I just wish the game on Saturday didn't happen at all. I wish that the Canucks had followed up the Florida win with this performance, and we all would have thought, all right, now they're rolling. Now they've got this thing sorted out and moving in the right direction. But this seems to be this year's version that consistency remains an issue. Still haven't strung consecutive wins together at Rogers Arena, and we're past the middle of December. They'll get a chance on Saturday when Travis Green and the Ottawa Senators come calling. But, it's been way too much of that one step forward, one step back. So Good test going into Utah and Vegas here back-to-back, and we'll see if they can. We know that they've been better on the road. They've had much more success on the road, and we'll see if they can follow up another solid performance with another one in Utah on Wednesday night.
I'm kind of lost for answers, trying to figure out why this team has so much trouble with consistency. Like, they just look different night in, night out. They look like a different team. Any theories, Jeff? Like, why does this team struggle with consistency so much?
I think a lot of it's the top of the lineup and just the season that their top end guys like Elias Paterson has had a ton of inconsistency baked into his game. I was looking at this earlier today. Their last 8 hockey games, they're 4-2-2. Like, you think of all the noise and drama and moving parts and in and out of the lineup. 4-2-2, points in 6 of the 8 games, 2 regulation losses, 1 goal from Elias Paterson, Connor Garland, and JT Miller. Now, Miller's been out of the lineup in a way. But if you told me in any 8-game stretch that those guys combined for 1 goal and it was Petey banking the puck off Colton Parayko on the power play, so no 5-on-5 goals from 3 guys that you expect to be offensive drivers and leaders, it just speaks to this notion of on a lot of nights, early on. Remember, like, Teddy Bluger got off to a nice start. Pius Suter's been fairly consistent. Sherwood obviously through. For the last couple of weeks, it's been Jake DeBrusk. Power play has found ways to squeeze pucks through. There's lots of different ways that they have achieved victory, but it hasn't always been on the backs of their best players. And so I think that sort of speaks to the inconsistency here that most teams that are at the top of the standings, their best players show up, produce on a nightly basis. I think that's some of the frustration, obviously, for Rick Tocchet throughout the year. But any way you slice it, and I want to be crystal clear on this, like, as much as we may point to, these 3 guys don't have goals in 8, and, there's still questions about the defense. The record is spectacular, and I want to give this group credit for being 16-9-5 at the 30-game mark. Like, we've all sat and watched and analyzed. I'm still not certain how it's added up to that kind of record because there has been so much uncertainty and indifference on a lot of nights. But through it all, they have found ways. I suppose Kevin Lankinen has been one of the real constant themes, giving them the kind of goaltending that they've needed. And now, man, if Thatcher Demco has reached a level with a performance like last night, that's a really encouraging sign for the Canucks moving forward.
With Brock Boeser, there's been chatter in the market lately about his future, his next contract. I would bet that if the Canucks are going to extend him, that the AAV would have to start with an 8. Where do you stand on Boeser's future, and how comfortable would you be signing him to a lucrative long-term extension?
I don't have a huge issue with something that starts with an 8. A 40-goal guy last year. He's not anywhere close to that pace, and the head injury seems to have slowed him down a little bit here, and JT's absence as well. But I still think that he should be a 30-goal guy every year in his prime, and those guys get paid, especially as an unrestricted free agent. So as the cap goes up, he's making 6.65 now. Like, the jump from 6.5 to 8 isn't great when you're buying out UFA years. It's term. It's all about term for me. And sure, you would have some real concerns, I think, about going on a max deal. What would that look like at the back end? We always talk about contracts not aging well. I do think with Brock's foot speed that is going to be a concern into his 30s. He loves it in Vancouver. He's made that abundantly clear. The times when his name has surfaced in trade rumors, you know that he doesn't want to leave. This is the only hockey home that he's known. He just passed the 500-game mark. Are he and his agent Ben Hankinson willing to play ball here? I think the Canucks would have trouble getting him on a 6-year contract just because 28-year-old free agents who have scored 40, they know they're going to get paid. So as much as in a perfect world, if you'd convince them, 6 years, stay and try and win a cup here, would he listen to something like that? I think that would be a difficult conversation for the player to have, leaving a bunch of money on the table there. So it's pretty clear, I think, by now. Jim Rutherford on After Hours the other night, playing the long game here. I think this management group isn't 100% sold on the repeatability of another 40-goal season, and yet, who was one of their best players in the playoffs last year? It was Brock Boeser. So that just sort of strengthens his argument about his value and what he should be able to command on the market. It's going to be fascinating. the fact that it doesn't sound like there's an awful lot happening behind the scenes between these two sides, it does make you wonder ultimately where this is going to go. But Brock's been a really good Canuck for a lot of years. I believe him when he says he wants to stay here, but it is a business, and ultimately he's not going to take a massive hometown discount just to make the Canucks happy. He has to set himself up, and as a player, you don't get unrestricted free agency very often. So, yeah, I mean, for him, I think best case scenario would be that he starts to heat up again. Like, the head injury seemed to slow him down a bit, and then not having JT back when he returned to the lineup, what is it? I think he scored twice since he came back from the head knock. So they need him. Again, you look through this lineup, and the guys that really haven't had these great runs of late, that's encouraging to me, because you know that Paterson and Miller and Boeser are going to score some goals and create some offense. And Connor Garland has played too well all season to, this is sort of his first really quiet stretch of the season. Again, you get any of those guys going, and I think that bodes well for the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, I don't have the answers, but I am, like everybody, fascinated to sort of see how this Boeser storyline plays out.
Jeff, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for doing this, and we will chat with you soon.
Yeah, now I'm feeling bad because it's the holiday season and we're all supposed to be festive, and I basically came on here and clobbered you over the head with a bat. So
it's for a good cause.
It was. If it brought $10 as a donation, then hey, let's make this a weekly feature.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. JBat's weekly takedown of quads. Yeah, that's a great idea, Jeff. Jeff, thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks.